All right, we're live and we're ready to go, and I'm excited. I hope you are too. Welcome, everybody. This is Marilyn Shannon, and this is SkyWire. And this is a show all about listening. And what we do is we take listening and we understand life as we listen. We take words, we take situations, we take actions, we take feelings, we take surrealism, we take life, and we apply listening to it, and we see what we learn from that. And with me today so far is Dave. Hey, Dave.
Hi, Marilyn.
How you doing,
Good.
Dave?
Yeah, good to be here.
Good to have you. And
Yeah.
Elaine, welcome back.
At long last.
Long
At
last, welcome.
last.
Welcome back. And
Thank you.
Katrina, hey there. Welcome, honey. Hopefully, we'll have a few more of our illustrious panel joining us momentarily, coming off of other hangouts. But if you're joining us for the first time, uh, what we just have fun here and we explore life. And if you're joining us and on YouTube and you're listening to the replay, please feel free to comment back and we will answer you even though you might be watching us in a replay. So with that, each week we come together and we take a topic. And today our topic is about worry. Do men and do women worry differently? And if we do, how do we? And if we don't, okay, that's great. What is our listening? Listening is when we take these situations and we go, okay, what what does worry tell us? What does the difference between men and women tell us? Or what does it tell us when there is no difference? And how do we apply these learnings to life? So it's an interesting topic, and I'm ready to go because I've had a week of quite a bit of worry. So let's go and just jump right in. So Katrina, I'd love to ask you because you're so creative and such a light force, such a healing force. So what do you think about worry?
I think what's interesting about worry and how people look at it is that it really does start with each of our own personal fears. So something that you worry about to me might be like, oh, that's no big deal. But because it's something that's either a learning process for you in your life or what you're going through or growing through, it makes it a little bit more of a worry type situation for you. And that's what I started to learn, as I expanded more into my empath, sensitivities. I'm feeling worried right now, but is it really mine? And I think sometimes when you're really close with people, whether you're empathic or not, or define yourselves that way, that it can really sort of affect you in that sense. So I think as we, go through life, build those different fears, bust through different fears, excuse me, we have different worries that come up. And I think with men and women specifically, there is definitely, I think, things that women worry about more, especially like if you're a mother and you have children, there's, the helicopter parent kind of thing. There's a little bit of a different worry there. And with men, I think they worry also about different things, but under the surface, I think it's really just all the words. I think in a lot of ways, when you're close with someone or when you're looking at both sides of the picture, you really can be worried about the same things, but you're expressing how you're worrying differently and you're listening to your partner differently or your friends or whoever's in your life a little bit differently based on your personal experience, and maybe your sex does play into that. I'll just use a really quick example that sometimes when I'm like, hey, this is kind of on my mind, my partner sometimes thinks I'm expressing worry, which I think is very interesting. I'm not sure if all men do that. I think it's just him in particular. She's expressing something, I want to take care of her, this means she's worried. So I think it's the dynamics between couples as much as it is, your personal journey and where you're at in your own development.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense because
Yeah.
I don't think, and I'm working with this in my own work, but I'm taking a look at our souls and I'm thinking to
Mm-hmm.
myself, okay, is there a man's soul and a woman's soul? I don't think so. I think it's just a soul, right? So,
Yeah.
so it's the experience that the souls are having.
Yeah.
And a soul in a man, in the male gender, is having a male gender experience,
Mm-hmm.
and and then the women is the same thing. So how do we listen so that we don't misunderstand each other, and how do we listen so that we don't drive ourselves crazy because stress and worry will kill us. So.
Yeah, and the expectations that both sexes have, either whatever, however you look at it in society today, there's expectations on both sexes in different ways, and that can cause different kinds of worry for that person. Like you said, because of the experience that they're having as that gender this time.
Perfect. Great. Thank you for all of that. So now I'm going to ask our man. Come on, man. Tell us what you got.
Is that me?
I guess so. I don't stand up here.
He's the man in purple today.
I'll go with that. What Katrina said is, to my mind, what we teach, is very, very on point. We tend not to get stuck in what happened to us. We get stuck in the significance of the event, and we replay it. And our past doesn't create our future. It just creates us to now, as we said last week. It gets us here. It doesn't get us any further than here. It's down to us here to get us into the future. And if we're carrying our past around and our experiences in the past, we see commonality in situations and in people and in conversations. And that tends to trigger a response from us that I'm going to have the same experience. You're not. But we will innately worry about things. And the thing about pressure that came up just now, I think there's more pressure on women today than on men. It's all very well having these websites and books and magazines about women in business, but you never see men in business because we just assume that men are in business. And so every single day women have to prove themselves, not necessarily just to men, but in more difficult situations to other women. They're always being watched and having to be empowered, and the fact that we label them as women in business is defeatist. It's like, as soon as we name it and we segregate it, men, as far as I know, I've never had an issue with women in business. I've never had an issue with women doing a man's job. There's no such thing as a man's job. There's no such thing really as a woman's job. We're just human beings. Admittedly, women are better at some things than men. Probably they're better at more things than men are women. But I get disappointed when we pressure women to look good all the time, to prove that they're strong. As soon as a man proves that he's strong in business, he's seen as assertive. A woman who is seen as strong is classified as a bit of a bitch. It's just wrong. And if that constant fight is bound to cause worry. But unfortunately, worry has never changed the outcome of anything. And how it turns out is how it will turn out, whether you worry about it or not. It's difficult because there are two different brain formulas. Men have a different brain to women. It's wired differently. Men have boxes. Women have wire where it connects everything, and everything is connected to everything else. But men will just think about one thing, worry about it, put it away. And we take our lead in a relationship, I think, from women, because we can tell whether our partner is worried about something. And so we think, I better be worried too. It's not in our makeup to worry about everything, but I think there's more pressure on women because women connect everything together. The car, the money, the job, your mother-in-law, my mother-in-law, all this sort of stuff is all connected. Whereas a man will sit there, that's why a man can sit there looking at the TV with their hand control like that. And he's not doing anything, he's not thinking. Because we have the ability not to think and stay alive. But women are constantly thinking and are constantly connecting stuff, and it generates that worry. And that's, I think, what men have to be aware of, is that women have got pressure and women have got a lot more worry than men have. And
You
it's
know,
wrong.
I have to say something because I'm making a study of men. I mean, I work with a lot of women, but I really, 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 really am like men, and I'm really making a study. And what I just heard is that one of the advantages of us doing this show is so that we can share, so that we can hear each other, different points of view, man, women, 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 fear, whatever it is, so that we grow our knowledge, we grow our perspectives, we grow our our learning, we grow all of these things. And I'm hearing you say things, Dave, and because I'm a woman, and I'm hearing you say things that I'm not so sure I completely agree with, because I would say the same thing about men almost that you're saying about women. That's why I think this is so great, is because I get to hear your perspective, and listening allows me to do that. Because I look at men and I think men worry a lot, and I don't think men have the verbiage. You're exceptional. Mark is exceptional, and there are a lot of men out here that are exceptional. But men generally don't have the verbiage to communicate what they feel, what they think, what they know. So they are pent up with a lot of worry and a lot of upset because they have not been given, they don't have that that knowledge yet to be able to express themselves. You men are extraordinary. And I know we know a lot of men that can do that. Women, we've been being talked to and communicated with since early, early on. So our level of comfort to express ourselves is going to look different in worrying. We might express worry differently than the men. Maybe the men hold it back. I don't know. I want to learn from you men, because I think it's so important that we all learn how to express ourselves, because one thing is for sure, worry will kill us, and we cannot be at our best. We can't be at our creative best. We're not going to be at our spiritual best. Now, it's all part of getting to that best. So we have to go through this so that we can understand the difference. But, I'm just like really curious. So I really thank you for showing up and expressing this, and everybody that's out there, this is a perfect venue for you to share whatever it is, because I think we need to take all of these points of view and just throw them out there in as loving, kind way as possible. Just put it out there so that we can connect the dots and come out with something really great for this planet. So anyway, I want to welcome Margarita here. Yay! I knew you'd show up.
Hi.
And hi, honey. And Mark and Heidi. Mark,
Hello.
I don't see. Okay, there you are. But when you're on the bottom, you may want to get a little closer to your wife.
Oh.
There you go. There you
Pulls
go.
out my earphones.
Cool, 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 cool. So anyway, I'm really happy you're here, and um, some of what Katrina was talking about early on was how men and women have different experiences, and that's very true. That's how we express ourselves, through those experiences, and we only know what we know. And I think, Dave has made some extraordinary points, and I'm so curious to know at the end how we all feel about this. If we change our perspectives, if we change how we feel about this topic, that's one of the interesting things. So it's great. Dave, did you have anything else to say before we move on?
No, just something that you mentioned there.
Okay.
I think women are not afraid to show they're worried about
Exactly.
something.
Exactly.
But we are in a society where men who are seen to be worried are deemed to there's a weakness in a man, as somebody who is concerned, worried, and it's an emotional block that men have.
Mhm.
And some people do see these things as a weakness, and they'll see caring as a weakness. They'll see being worried about something as a weakness. The problem is that people who see you as a caring person, somebody who cares, sees that as a weakness up until the moment they want you to care about them. Because everybody wants it. Everybody wants to be cared about. But some men see it as a weakness, and they're by their peers. In business, in life, their friends, they go down a bar and they say something and their friends laugh. But that's the pack animal type of thing that we have. Women haven't got any fear of their emotions whatsoever, and that's a strength.
Yeah, and I think I'm seeing it in my son-in-laws, I'm seeing it in my daughters, I'm seeing it all around me. I'm seeing there's being a shift. The roles are shifting. And I think on some level, it's really for the best. Obviously, women are getting really strong, and if you talk to a lot of people, women are really taking over in a lot of ways, and men are learning what the women already know. So like the women are learning what the men knew, and so now we're going to find our balance somewhere. I don't know where, I don't know when, I hope it's in my lifetime. And I want to be a part of helping that because I see it as being extremely important. So thank you for bringing that up. Okay, Elaine.
It's so interesting. Yesterday or a few days ago when I saw you mention this topic, my first reaction was, I don't want to talk about this at all. I don't want to, it's like men and women, I don't want to generalize and compare men and women. But then this morning it was like, I'm ready to come on and just, see what awareness has come to me. And like Dave, it occurred to me that this whole thing about worry relates to the thinking about things in the past and our reactions to them. So when we're caught in a state of worry, it's like bringing this crap from the past into the now and kind of projecting it into the future. And but if we recognize we all have this wonderful wise observer self that actually has the capacity to notice when we're in that state, then we can choose to say, could I be looking at this in a different way? Could I let go of this hold that this thought or pattern seems to have on me? That's the first thing. But now when it comes to men and women, what bubbled up within me from the conversation with Katrina and Dave, it occurs to me women will probably not do well trying to correct men. That what is most helpful, and this is what I often have to do with my own husband, it's like I have to go in the back door addressing a lot of issues and things, and because if I bring them head on, he thinks, his viewpoint is being challenged, he's being corrected. Damn, he doesn't want to be corrected. He's the strong one, he's the right one. So for myself, so that I don't get in a constant state of frustration, it's like I almost have to go back to practicing some of the things I did in holistic nursing. I have to remember that beyond the outer expression of him being at his leading edge, there is this soul, there is this spirit, that same God stuff, light stuff in him is the same stuff in me. If I dare to remember that, then what might bubble up within my own awareness, because I'm listening, I'm paying attention, is something to say or some way to be. And I'm now thinking even of Dave, what you've been saying about like NLP, how you can make a connection with someone by kind of noticing their tempo, their speech level, their body language. And if you are paying attention to that and like honoring that without trying to change them or correct them, you do some of these things which might match them, that just in these very subtle ways opens up for the communication and connection to happen. especially when you're observing that they have a worry thing going on. They have a stress thing going on. And if you try to figure that out intellectually, you're probably going to fail. You know, from your heart, from your spirit core, you're asking, you know, how can I be helpful here? How can I experience a connection when I'm noticing what might be looking like a worry? So that's what's coming up, and I now I'm really grateful to be here because I needed to remind myself of my own wisdom about this, particularly with stuff related to my spouse. Ha ha ha.
Well, honestly, there's very little that we don't know. All we do is help each other remember to get reconnected, in touch with what's already inside of us, and to find a way to humanly express it. Because why would we want to worry about something that really doesn't exist when you think about it? Like somebody said on the chat, worry is just part of our imagination. So, and it is important to be able to listen to know where people are. And if you do recognize somebody who's worrying, I mean, there may not be anything you can do about it, but the acknowledgement is important because worry can look a lot of different ways and create a lot of misunderstandings and a lot of conflict. And also, it's a way of disconnecting. And so when you see that, that's the joy of listening, is to listen to listen to the awareness of it and to listen to get beyond it. So very cool, Elaine. And I've had one crazy week of worrying about some things, so it's really good to get in touch with it in a different way. So let's see. Oh, Mark and Heidi, come on. Let's hear from you.
Okay, you know, uh, I was so clear about worrying before this show began. Now I'm not so sure. Uh, been listening.
Are
to
you
people.
worrying?
I'm worried about that. Yes. Uh, I, I just have to speak about personal experience and not try to come to any grand conclusions. I sometimes wake up at 3 a.m. and go to the bathroom, and then I just hope nothing complicates my little trip to the bathroom and back. You know, that starts me to thinking, like a cat that needs to be in or out or whatnot. You know, just anything that interrupts the thing, because then I can lay awake until 6 or 7, wondering about everything imaginable, worrying about all kinds of things. Uh, and it's such a strange thing because I know that this doesn't help. It'll go away. This is not how I solve problems. Oh, what are those problems? And by 6 or 7, as morning is coming around, that mood is gone, and I often fall back asleep again. Uh, if I'm awake until Heidi wakes up, then just touching her a bit ends all of that. There's a kind of aloneness time, this 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock business, that is particularly makes me particularly susceptible to a state of mind where worry seems real. Uh, I look back on my life, and I know that when I was working, I could worry about work. When I was in relationships that maybe weren't going so well, I could worry about them. When I wasn't working and I wasn't in relationships, I had no worries. The life could just go, and I could make decisions on my own, yes or no, maybe do some research, maybe talk to somebody, but not worry. You know, who was it? It's not Jean-Paul Sartre. It's the other famous French author who died so young. Hell is other people, he said. You know, when I was on my own, that was not an element. And you know, it's when you're in relationship, these matter, and they're not automatically resolved. They take communication, they take time, effort, disappointment, frustration, uh, working hard, and I just love that easy button commercial. I just love it. And I guess that's where I'm going to stop now, and not to say anything final about anything.
I would continue a little bit because I don't know who is familiar with Enneagram. He is an Enneagram 6, so it is based on fear. And I think there is differences of people. When you have fear as a ground emotion, let's say, ground, they call it passion, then everything is much more difficult because you have to, everything is potentially dangerous. But if you don't have that, if you have there are other problems with other Enneagram types, but less the worrying thing, I think. I'm sure Enneagram 8, they don't worry at all. And probably Enneagram 7, very little, at least not consciously. So this is one thing.
Yourself?
Oh, 4s do worry. Yeah, I'm a 4, so I do worry. But I have learned to find some techniques to get me through these things, and do reality checks. When we don't do reality checks, the worries. I mean, I can give an example. I don't know if I have already said that here. I have said it in one hangout sometime. I lived here in the country, nobody around, alone for a long time, a big house, big place, and so on. And when I was alone, and at night there are strange noises, There are noises and then sometimes there are strange noises. And it happened to me that there was extremely strange noise, like metal noises, and I thought, oh God. And I was in the worrying mode up to then, And then I said, no, you know what? If it's really somebody to kill you, he will kill you anyway. So you now go out and see what it is, what makes you. Because I knew if I don't do that, I will be worrying the whole night and create a story like something, So I went out in the middle of the night, and what was it? It was a hedgehog leaning over the plate, the metal plate of the cats, where the cat food is, and it bounced to and forth and made this strange noise, which I have never heard before. And since then, for me, it was clear, whenever I worry, I go and see if this has a reality behind it. Mm-hmm. So that's how I handle worries.
And that makes perfect sense. I mean, everybody can get in touch with something like that, whether it's breathing, a reality check, looking at your history and thinking, okay, what are the triggers here that caused me to do this? Or, what is something else that, we always know for the most part things are going to work out somehow. Mark, you said something interesting about the middle of the night, and you do. That's a time when I think a lot of our defenses are down, so the worry tends to enter into our life's force. But so do dreams. So does the other side. So does, you know what I mean? It both comes in. So it's very interesting how that, I never thought about that before too, you just said that. But we are privy to, the freedom of, the extraordinary as well as the worry of worry. So.
Yeah, both the dreams and the worries are on the other side.
Yeah. That's true, really. So cool. All right. So Margarita, you ready to go?
Yay! And I was just not worrying of what I was going to say, because I'm sort of making a conscious resolution a while back that I'm going to be happy no matter what. So if it pops up something that looks like worry, then I ask myself, what is an action I can do to do that, even if it's 2 o'clock in the morning or 4 o'clock in the morning. So then if it really is serious and I can't go back to sleep, then I go take my notepad and then I write down, okay, I'm going to fix this. What else am I going to do? I'm going to do this, and then I have a long list of things, and then I go back to sleep because now I know what I have to do, what's required. And that just eliminates the worry, because now I have a task list. In the morning, I'm going to deal with it. And I usually fall asleep. So that's like a strategy that I want to share with everyone. But it requires that you actually make a conscious decision to say that worry is dangerous, worry is not helpful. It's an indication of that there is too much stuff inside that's unknown. And so do a little task list. For me is, okay, it sorts out that unknown thing. Oh yeah, that's what it is. Okay, I'm going to fix that, you know. I'm going to repair that, or I'm going to go and acquire that thing, you know. So that's what I'm thinking about worry for myself. And when you ask about how I perceive that men worries, I think that in my experience that they don't call it worry. They just think that it's like some extra task that they have to do that they don't want to do, let's say, or and then they express it differently. They express it in being aggressive. They express it in some other forms, or excessive activity, or something like that. I think that the actual worrying mode, like you see anxious person worrying and worrying and worrying, I think that, of course, there's men who also do that, but I think men handles that differently than women.
So we're agreeing, I guess, that we, from our experiences, the ones that have the male identity or the one that has the female identity, that we handle things differently. And I mean, just like I might handle something differently than my daughter, just because I'm an individual person, more so, you know, so there's different ways of handling things differently and different ways of identifying who we are. So we have different cultures, different different genders, different religions, different whatevers that enter into how we handle something. So now I think it might be a great idea to go ahead and talk about ways of acknowledging, listening to the fact that we are in a state of worry, acknowledging how we handle it. So I love talking about, you know, what you're talking about as far as, you know, how you first you hear it, and how do you know you're in it? You know, how do you know you're in a state of worry, whether your palms are sweaty or you feel like you're gonna have a heart attack? How do you know you're in it? And then the steps that you take, because the steps help alleviate, let you know that you're doing something, that you're in action, and that you're not just a byproduct of the worry and you have no control over it. Because once you start taking steps, you send a message that you have some control over it. Maybe not all of it. You know, I've been going through something, and I think a lot of it is for me to learn not to do something, you know, for me to get it. So let's, Katrina, I know you started the conversation, so why don't you take over at this point?
Well, I think, like you were saying, because everyone experiences worry differently, sometimes that shows up in, hey, I'm waking up in the middle of the night. Some of it's very physical things. Some of it's like a panic attack and almost an anxiety type of feeling. So I think it's really important to know what your triggers are and how those send you into worry mode. And then once you're there, how do you realize that you're there so that you can get out of it? Because, you know, you were also mentioning that. For me, I think because, you know, Dave was mentioning how women sort of think of the multidimensional aspect of something that's happening. So they're already 10 steps ahead thinking, hey, when I worry about this one thing, it's because I know it's going to affect 10 things. I'm not necessarily sure if that's a male-female thing, because I know men that are like that too. They may just not express it. But I think for me specifically, that's how it shows up. It's like, okay, I'm worried about this one thing, and then I'm already thinking about the 10 other things that could be impacted if this one thing doesn't work out as I would like it to or expect it to. So I think the worry part is very highly tied to expectation. So what is your expectation about this? Are you worried if it's going to show up or not show up? Because you have no control over that part. And I think if you can take that element out and really either meditate on it or ask yourself, what is the worst that can happen if this doesn't go as I planned? And can you take that worry out? I think for me, it's very much getting in that balance of the emotional state versus the mental state. And saying, okay, now that I know that I'm really wound up about this, how can I actually think about it objectively, or maybe talk to someone, or just write to myself, like write a letter to yourself, or kind of figure that out in your journal? Because I think that's what ends up happening in worry, is there's an imbalance between your male and female energies and how those two are talking to each other.
Which has a lot to do with the emotion.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think that because if you're willing to go within and actually understand why you're worrying, or sort of what your triggers are, it goes a long way with knowing when they're kind of popping up. I think we learn a lot of that through modeled behavior with our families and our parents, and sort of how that influences us to worry about things one direction or another. There's things that my mom gets all wound up about. I'm like, that's so not a big deal. Right? But then there's other things that when I find myself worrying, I'm like, this is not me. This is something my mom would worry about. So it is kind of interesting when you play in those dynamics as well, and sort of looking at how you've learned to worry along the way, and how those relationships have helped you learn something about worrying. You know, to me, I've learned very much in relationships. So if I'm with a person and I sort of see them modeling different behavior, or how they handle different worry, and then see that whatever they're doing kind of turns out all right over the years, I'm like, yeah, I've learned to sort of let it not affect me as well. So I think we learn a lot from each other in that way, and watching how someone can be at ease. Because there's always going to be chaos. There's always going to be something to worry about. So it is very much a conscious choice, like the people on the panel so far have been saying, and looking at, okay, well, I know I'm going to do it, so can I dig in a little deeper and understand why I'm doing it and let it go? And what process is, either through meditation, walking in nature, just having a talk. There's lots of different ways to do it, but you've got to find the way that works for you, and be willing to feel worried and understand that there may be a deeper thing there for you to listen to for yourself. You know, maybe like you were saying, Marilyn, there's a lesson there for you. So that's very important, not to push the worry away, but to really try and understand it and find a way to sit with it and feel into the why behind the worry.
Yeah, listen for the strategies. I mean, listen for the deeper mess. Everything about this involves listening. Everything.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm ready to go down the line. Anybody have anything to say at this moment? Go ahead. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, sure. Katrina said something that resonated with me when she talked about our male and our female natures, plural, you know, and I'm trying to fit that into what I said about the worries and the dreams being both on the other side. I love my dream life. I can fall into reverie so easily. I'm gone, you know, and it's just wonderful, just nonsensical. I don't worry about any of that. It's just crazy stuff, no problem. But the worries are like a superficial layer that I have not penetrated. I haven't got to that dream side of the worry, you know, that causes all of that stuff to bubble up. And I try to deal with it in a rational level, and it just simply doesn't work. People who have found ways of writing things down, etc., that we've heard today, no help for me whatsoever, because there's no rational basis for the worry. So treating it rationally is useless, at least for me. So.
And this I would call more a feminine way normally than a masculine way.
That's what I meant by mentioning male and female.
Yeah, this is we have turned the roles around. He is more the feminine and I'm more the masculine in these things.
In some ways, not so, but
that's only the way. That's only your energy. Yeah. That's only the way we are using our energy, is the masculine energy or the feminine energy. It's only energy. So understanding that energy, that we have a choice, you know, and how we utilize our energy, which energy, you know, it's all energy, it's all the same. So but I guess we have strengths in one more than in another, or it's tendencies or whatever. So we have to just understand where are we coming from and what do we want to, utilize, or what do we want to access, or where do we want to be.
And what works. I mean, in the case of Mark, he clearly couldn't use the same strategy as I use to get out of worries. We tried, we talked about that often. It's just not the way.
But I'm sure you're learning from each other, which is what's creating more of a balance in your team.
What we are learning, that we are so different in so many ways, which I hadn't imagined, that, but as we are really talking about it, and he is one of these men who are able to talk about what is going on in his inside and in his feelings, imaginations, and whatever, in his thoughts. So he allows me to participate on it, and sometimes I'm really blown away in the positive and the negative way. Sometimes I'm really, it cannot be,
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Every
but sometimes
7 seconds.
okay. But sometimes I'm also astonished how things can be different for other people. I mean, I have learned a lot of NLP and of Enneagram and other typologies, and I know theoretically that people are different, but have it so near, really close, these differences. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, there's so much to talk. There's so much to touch upon here. Yeah. Who else? Who's next? Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
Oh, well, I'm just saying that I've become very aware lately of how much I project. She opens her mouth and says 4 words, I have finished the sentence, in a very me-centered way. Without waiting to understand or even hear what she's actually saying.
Yeah, and that's what I think. It's most of the misunderstandings we have in the world is that we listen to 3 or 4 words and then we finish the thought for ourselves instead of listening to the end. I sometimes tell him, listen, come to the end.
That's right.
But we are doing it all. We are doing it all. It's not just him, we are doing it, and you can catch yourself when you think you already know what the other person wants to say or express or whatever. We are doing it so much, and we are not aware of it.
Right. We want to fix things. So that's great. Do you have Common Tracker up by any chance? Because I have part of it up, but I don't see I can't find the stream, so I don't know if you have it up or not. But if you do, that's great. Do you have questions? Who's got questions?
Marilyn, there's a question here
go.
I just noticed by switching screens from Nicole Levac.
Okay.
Who is asking, or she's saying that I'm wondering if time has an impact on how we worry. Does our experience help or hinder us in this worry thing?
That's a good question. I'd like to know. I'd love to know if when she means time.
I think
Good.
I think it's alluding to something that I said earlier about how we don't get stuck in what happened to us. We get stuck in the significance of the event, and that tends to impact or colour our reaction to something, and we link to it. And so our response then, we worry about because we think we're going to have the same response now. We don't realise that we can break that. We can recreate that. We can repattern it, or whatever you want to dress it up and call it. But it's not. It was then. It was useful at the time. We constructed something that was useful at that time, but it's not now. It's like having a 6-inch nail and a club hammer to hammer a piece of wood over a broken window, but you wouldn't use it to put curtains up in your lounge. It was useful then, but it's not useful now. There's something else that you can use, I think.
That's a great question from Nicole, and it's great because that is a huge part of listening. It's listening for the shift, that could have happened, listening for something that was an old habit, an old behavior, old this, old that, to the possibility of what's new. So
I think what Heidi was saying, I think also, about that noise, I see a lot of people who have tattoos with this written on their skin, no fear, as if it's nothing to worry about, you know, N-O, no fear, you know, and it should be K-N-O-W, no fear, because you need to know fear and know what it is. You need to see it for what it is, rather than more than it is. And so the fear thing is something that we obviously do worry about, but it as I say, it goes back to what Nicole said. You know, you hear something happened in the past, and when you hear something almost like it again, you think it's a re-emergence of that. It's a renewal of that event, and it's not necessarily so. It ain't necessarily so.
Exactly, because things on some level things happen for a reason, and all those things that we tend to worry about are just not existent. So that was a great question, Nicole. Before we go on, are there any others? Because I didn't have it up, and I don't want to not have. Is there anything else there?
No, there was Vivek who said, logic hardly ever helps. Helps life. Let me bring it up.
Can you?
Yeah. Does it come?
Oh, yay. Yeah.
Yeah. Logic hardly ever helps life, because creation of life did not happen due to logic. It happened because of love.
Yeah. So there.
Excuse me. That's fabulous.
Yeah.
Terrific. That's a great comment. Good.
We might as well leave now.
Say that again. Say that again.
Yeah, we might as well leave now.
Yes.
Well, that's right. I mean, exactly. When you love, there's no worry, right?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, Elaine, take over. Can you hear me? Elaine? Elaine, you're next.
Hello.
Yeah,
Hello.
There you go.
I'm next. Oh no, I'm next. I am just feeling like the most important thing I've heard reiterated a couple times during the show was related to our capacity to recognize when we're in this state of worry or not, and then having the capacity to make the choice or examine that we have a thought going on, and we can choose to hold on to that thought or challenge that thought or not. And when it comes to being with someone else or someone of the opposite sex, if we're if we notice our own reactivity to someone else's worry, well, then we might just get curious and look at ourselves and notice, oh my, do I worry about that too? In other words, it's kind of showing up as a mirror so we can both get curious and explore. And once again, like I said earlier, when it comes to another person or someone of the opposite sex, you might have to listen and go in through the back door to kind of address the subject or play with it.
Mm-hmm. So just like the front door, the back door is listening.
Yeah.
So so that was a great point about the mirror. Great point. It's your buttons. So Heidi, so that you have a thing to put up? Let's see. Jeremy, hey Jeremy.
Yeah.
All right.
He writes that creativity from the right brain helps alleviate worry. Writing, music, reading, drawing, art, searching for beauty in nature outside. Hashtag worry no more. Well, that's a good tip. Mm-hmm.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. Well, the thing about creativity, it does offer us solutions, but it also offers us so many possibilities of things to worry about that we have to listen to the fine line in creativity Are we listening to the possibilities of more attachment to the worry, or are we listening for the solution and the way to get out of it? That's really important. Cool. Margarita,
You know,
yeah.
that's what we offer from Sunday, next Sunday to the Sunday afterwards. Creativity, fun and relaxation challenge. Come and see us in Connections. Hang out on Connections or Connections Forum, which is more or less the same thing. Just do a little bit of.
What time is that?
It is always every day, half an hour from Sunday on, 5 p.m. my time, 11 a.m. Eastern time. So we did it in this way that even the Pacific time people can participate without having to get up before sunrise.
Cool. All right, Margarita, you've been listening. You've been observing.
Yeah, I was observing and contemplating, and actually I was in the present moment, so I wasn't thinking about what I was going to say. But I think that what Jeremy Murphy says about creativity, I agree totally with that, because this is how I actually don't get into worry states. Because when I'm creating something, it's like a flow. And there's another thing too with this. If you try to do several things at the same time, you are greater chance to worry. My mentor Eben Pagan says, don't multitask. And when you multitask, you have to have much more on your clipboard. Yeah, it's like this thing, right? And then if something else comes out of here and lands on your plate, that sort of crashes it. If you think that you have in your mind all of these things, like multitasking in your brain, in your thinking, like these thoughts, like there's a lot of things on the plate. But if we think about, okay, I'm going to focus on this 100% for 10 minutes or 1 minute or however long time, and make it as a practice, then I can finish it in half the time, or even 10% of the time. Somebody, like for example, very easy task, I have to go and do a repair somewhere. It's very easy to do, it takes 10 minutes, but it sits there up on my desk. Every time I walk by the desk, I see it. Oh, well, I don't have time right now. So I take up space in the brain. Instead of going to do it, already I have some free time and I'm going to go and do it. And then, no, I'm not, it's not time right now. And so that's taking up space in our head, in our thoughts. So even like, and I'm looking at that little task for 10 minutes that I could do, and I was thinking, why did I put it there? Why didn't I finish it while I was doing when I was in that? I should have decided maybe I shouldn't have done it, and remove it from the upcoming task list, right? I said about writing down a little list of things to do when I wake up in the middle of the night. That helps me. But if I do a task list during the day, it's kind of overwhelming. So now I write it down on a piece of paper and put it into a little file folder, so I could, if I have a detail about that project, okay, I write it down and put it there. And then when I can show it to you. It's like a little thing like this. And then so I have all the projects here, and it's like overview. Okay, oh, I forgot that. I could do that, right? So that's helping me. It's sort of a business tool, really, or creativity tool.
Well, those are very good points. And the other thing to remember is not to have your stuff scattered about and on different pieces of paper, because that will create a whole bunch of more worry. And going back to going back into nature thing is very important, because when you do, you get connected you find the connection again. You're reminded of the connection again, of something greater than you, of the beauty where the worry can't possibly live. So hold on a minute. We have another comment. Go ahead. Oh, you want to read it?
Yeah, first I wanted to say I'm surrounded by nature, and I succeed in not seeing it anymore. So going out into nature is not the sufficient thing to do. You need also to be able to see it and perceive it. Yeah, this is Vivek, and he says creativity very often blows all logic out of the window. And that is what makes life worth living and self-realization. I agree with you, Jeremy.
Cool. Perfect. That's wonderful.
Another vote for creativity.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting thing that we should talk about sometime, is like when you have creativity all around you, like how, I'm so curious, like how it doesn't work. So I think we should hold that for another conversation. I think it's really important. And since we're almost at our hour, I want to, we're not going anywhere yet. I just want to find out from you all through this conversation of the difference between men and women, or just the bigger conversation about worry. Is there something for you that has shifted from having this conversation? And just real quick, Katrina?
So is that dang microphone. I think it's just very interesting to hear everyone else's perspective on what triggers their worry or where they're at, and sort of seeing what similarities people have to what my own experience is. It's always interesting to hear what triggers other people and what solutions other people use.
Cool. And Dave, anything different or new or?
There we go. Yeah, I mean, it's been a great conversation with some great comments as well. It just reinforces, what I teach, but also what I came to understand, that it didn't matter whether I worried about it or not. It's like a lot of people won't do things in their life because they fear or they worry about the outcome, and we see a lot of people tiptoe through life silently, hoping to make it safely to death, without creating any ripples whatsoever, without having any failures. I never take chances, not causing trouble, not breaking cover, not going for it. It doesn't really make any difference, because worrying about it doesn't make any difference. It will turn out anyway.
That's right. Cool. Good. Elaine, what about you?
I want to say that Margarita's little tip about having a folder related to all the projects, and when the awarenesses flash through you during the day, a tip, a plan, put it in that slot. That's an organizational tip that will help me, because I do have trouble with my own clutter and project organizational things. So that's a great little takeaway for me. And my reminder to myself about going in the back door, about my husband and other people, that bubbled on up into my awareness, because I need to remember that and practice that.
Great. And Mark and Heidi?
Oh, I'm just going to thank Katrina for helping me with something again. When she spoke of male and female energy, masculine and feminine energy might be a little clearer way to put it, rather than actual gender differences being paramount. So, and then, of course, coming to understand that maybe my worries are just the surface of something that I haven't been able to deal with on a dream level or on a creativity level yet. And so, look, there's a back door for me.
Cool. That's great. Heidi?
This is where I put my notes, and there are some on the right side, on the left side, and then I'm desperately looking for the right place where I have written this and where I've written that. Margarita, I think I have to buy something or to create something like you have. It's
Right.
It costs $1.50 in the Dollarama store, you know. Spend $2 on something like that.
Perfect.
it's not the money, it's just also the discipline. But what you said to write down at night, you know, I think this is a good thing, because otherwise the thoughts go on and the projects go on, and when you have written it down, you don't have to worry that you have forgotten the next day, which happens often. So this is a good reminder.
You can write while I'm worrying. You know, with the money.
You can write about his worry. Margarita, do you have a final word?
Yes, and I just came in when Dave said the things about how women worry. They have to take care of everything. It's like a circular thing. And then men, they just click the remote. They don't think at all. I mean, I had no idea that it was true, that they don't think in those moments, let's say. So that was a good takeaway for me, because, you know, I'm not a man, so I can perceive maybe what they're going on in their mind, but to hear it from a man, that was profound. Profound.
Cool. Well, everybody out there, I hope you have some great takeaway, whether it's confirmation, whether it's some kind of different kind of insight, whether it's a tool, a strategy, a deeper understanding of something. I hope that is happening for you, and you'll let us know. I think for me, I still think it's an inside job. And I still think that if I'm looking at the men that I'm looking at here today and the ones that I know are commenting and are out there, then I know it's an inside job. So I know that we're all working on these concepts. They're not just owned by a woman. They're not just owned by a man. They're all of our things. We just have, maybe through our experiences and our knowledge and where we are today and what we remembered from yesterday and all of that stuff, we're just treating them differently, a little bit differently, but I still think it's an inside job. And it even makes me more committed to doing more and more of this, so that we all can listen to our insides and, you know, cut down on the worry, cut down on the rage, cut down on all of those things that are not helping us. So with that, I want to thank you all so much for being here. We'll be here again next week. And have a wonderful listening week and a listening day, and we'll see you very, very soon. Bye.